is 4 p.m. Tuesday, December 16th. It's a meeting of the Acushnet Board of Selectmen. There's a motion to call the meeting to order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Please rise for the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With it being one of the last meetings of the new year, we've got a lot of issues on the table this evening. Most importantly, two most important ones are talk about our current financial situation. Also, we have a Jesse Ellis, member of the school committee, is going to talk to us about air quality issues. And also, we'll be going over our liquor licenses, amongst other things. But before we do that, we have a Verizon poll hearing, so we need to open that up. Is there a motion to open up Verizon poll hearing, Keene Road poll location? This hearing is on the petition. It's on the petition job number 4A0ZY3T from Verizon New England Inc. and NStar Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, Keene Road, locate 1JO mid-span pole 75 feet 6 inches.
No, that's the name.
Oh, sorry about that. 9 feet from its original location on the north side of Keene Road. The relocated pole will be installed in line with approximately 162 feet west of the existing pole, 75.6.5, and approximately 171 feet east of existing pole, 75-5. Is there a motion to open up this hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Petition, yes, please.
Fix him up here.
You can do it right from there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you needed it on camera. Good afternoon. I am Kate Rugman. I'm a consultant for Verizon. If you need an address, it's 300 Unicorn Park Drive, and that's Woburn, Mass. 01801. And as I just stated, I was assigned the scope of work for Verizon. It is, as mentioned, on the agenda. It's a joint-owned Verizon and Eversource pole. They're looking to relocate it approximately 9 feet from its original location. And it came in as a customer request for Eversource because they're redeveloping behind there. I believe it's, I want to say it might be 5 houses or something.
Angelo Drive.
Right. So this, they needed it to basically, I think, extend the driveway. And it's in line, as it says, with the other pole locations. And that's why we're here for a grant location from the Board of Selectmen.
Is there anybody from the, any abutters, anybody from the neighborhood? All of this was posted and abutters were
You should
notified?
have, right, you should have the schematic of it.
Mhm. Yep, I don't see anybody. There's nobody here. Gentlemen, any thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is, we were notified by the town of Lakeville. This is an appropriate request. I'm sorry, town of Fairhaven, who are circulating a letter to their to our legislative delegation talking about current state aid and the importance of making sure municipalities are not having to automatically go to overrides to fund operating costs. And so it's appropriate. We do have a meeting later on this evening on state of town finances. I did invite Representative Sylvia and Willette, who I believe will be here. But essentially, Fairhaven is asking us to join other towns in sending a letter, asking for additional local aid and greater, more help for the town. So Fairhaven, Lakeville, others have done the same. So with that said, gentlemen, it's a draft letter for your consideration, if you're okay with it. A motion to approve and send to our legislative delegation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We can give Rep. Sylvia that. Next item is from the town of Lakeville, is that they voted At their meeting held on December 2nd, 2025, the Lakeville Select Board voted to approve the renewal of the contract of the town of Acushnet to utilize the Lakeville Animal Shelter for housing stray and surrendered Acushnet dogs for 2026. I've attached 2 copies of the agreement. Please review. Please note, due to increased costs and inspections by the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, which required substantial repairs at the shelter, the Select Board has voted to assess each town that boards with Lakeville Shelter an annual fee of $500, which is due by July 15th. This is a renewal of a past agreement. Any questions?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, gentlemen, I put on the agenda is Town Council RFP. No action needed right now, other than, as we, again, we're gonna talk about town finances, looking at past years of town council and those fees, I realize that we've had a couple big ticket items that we've had to deal with that hopefully now have gone away. But with that said, I know in years past, Mr. Gasper, when we were on the board in our first iteration, we've gone out, we put out an RFP and got some competition, and I think when we did that, we were able to drive down some prices. But I think since since that time, I know there are a number of local firms who are providing town council to our surrounding neighbors, and this is nothing against KP Law. I think they're great, and they've got a lot of institutional memory and knowledge about the town of Acushnet, but I do think it's at least worth going through that process and to see where it plays out. If that's something that the board feels is a good idea, we can then ask staff to develop an RFP that we can issue at some point after the first of the year. I think there's obviously some specific stuff that KP makes sense for, whether it's negotiations or what have you, but again, there may be other expertise locally that we might be able to tap into. So, just your thoughts, gentlemen.
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's good business practice, Mr. Chairman, to get it out there, and every year we're supposed to appoint council by the charter, so I have no problem doing that and putting it out for an RFP. I think it does warrant, just rubber stamping their renewal, and perhaps they get a little better rate and moving forward in the future.
All right, with that,
Only staying consistent.
could I have a motion to direct staff to develop a legal RFP for legal services?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we'll review it at the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we already have one on file from a couple of years ago, so
Okay.
we can just review that RFP and see if it's,
Sounds good.
standardized, that we can use it at this time around as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I believe we did one 3 years ago, and it just didn't get any traction because we got busy with other things. But I'm pretty sure we have a well-drafted, might just need a date change.
All right, next item on the agenda is looking at some of our fees, starting off with the building department. It's part of our overall effort to sort of modernize and bring things up to current day finances. Well, we never want to put a burden on any of our residents, but we got to at least make sure that our fees schedule is in line with what it costs to provide the service. Most notably, we've got in our building department, local inspectors, we're paying them $30 a visit. I don't know that that's attractive in this day and age. It's the lowest in the area. So I propose that we move that up to $50. Same with our electrical and wire inspector, up to $50. And I believe we do have the money in the budget to do that mid-year. And then moving forward, we would have that as part of our fee schedule. And then in addition to that, the other application fees in the building department, like roofing from $75 to $85, siding from $75 to $85, window from $25, just a flat fee of $75, insulation $50 to $60, pellet wood stove from $100 to, that'll stay flat, chimney from $80 remains $80, pools above ground $50 to $75, pools in ground $100 to $125, demolition of the whole house, $100 to $500. I know that happens very often. Shed from 30 to over 350 square feet from 30 to 60. Shed under 350 square feet, $40. Solar ground mounted, $250 to $300. solar roof mounted 200 to 2.25, temporary signs from $50, signs as allowed, $75, new dwelling from 40 cents per square foot to 50 cents per square foot, and addition alteration 40 to 50, and then lastly, reinspection fee from 50 to 60. Again, these are, we tried to be fair, don't necessarily have to be the most expensive in the area, but at least keep up with the cost of having to do business, so.
Mr. Chairman, just on one note, if there's, anybody looks at the building department fees for solar ground mounted, solar roof mounted, those are for residential
Yes,
only, not
yes,
commercial.
Correct, good point.
So,
All right.
motion to approve the list as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may, after reviewing the initial supplied information, this still keeps us underneath a lot of the surrounding towns.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to let people know that, you know, the building department put some real cognizant effort into making sure that they didn't, you know, really push high fees on
Yep.
our local projects.
All right, next item is, again, this is much housekeeping. Town meeting approved the town to go forward, the golf committee and the board of selectmen to go forward with a clubhouse at the golf course. And, you know, we did have an exploratory committee that helped come forward with a recommendation. I think that was really very helpful in the process to do that. And, you know, there's a lot of talent there. But that said, moving forward, you know, it's clearly in the purview of the Golf Management Committee. I think they're going to take ownership of that process moving forward and in working in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen, who are ultimately responsible for everything that goes on at the golf course. They say perception is reality, right? So anything in town, whether we're directly managing it on a day-to-day basis, at the end of the day, people look to the Board of Selectmen for not so much the success, but if there's anything going wrong. So with that said, I just wanted to get your thoughts, gentlemen, on, you know, there are a lot of talented people who served on the exploratory committee, and I know some have reached out about at least staying involved in the process as in an advisory capacity, again, not to supplant the golf management committee, but just want to get your thoughts on that. I know Dave Flynn's here on behalf of the golf management committee. Just get your thoughts on how you feel about that, but I would hate to see all that talent go to waste, because we might be able to leverage that. That was the point of having them involved. So before we kick it over to Dave, gentlemen, thoughts?
Ms. Name.
I don't have anything. I think I said at that last meeting that I was fully confident with both the committees together that they'd come up with something that would be beneficial, and I would defer to the golf management committee.
Yeah, you know, we'll see what Mr. Flynn, as the chairman of the golf management committee, has a recommendation, but I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think the exploratory committee has some talent to it. I think if we're going to do anything, we can just reach out to the number of members and see who still has an interest in serving in an advisory capacity, and see what that, maybe it's all of them, maybe it's a portion of them, whatever it may be, but we definitely have some work to do with the golf management committee, and if so, the exploratory committee on some internal design features that what we've seen before might need some improvement and tweaking. But I look forward to getting that process moving as fast as we can to get ourselves a new clubhouse.
Dave?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you guys are saying. We appreciate the work that the Facilities Exploratory Committee did. And I kind of foresee it as like you're saying, that now us as a golf management committee kind of own this project going forward. But you're right, if we electrical, we want to reach out to Doug. If it's design, we want to reach out to Rich, site work out to Jeff, something like that. Any work that they feel that they can help us still continue with suggestions from the work that they built on is certainly welcomed by us. But I also do kind of see it as the golf management committee is kind of like through the selectmen, the people who are taking it and going with it now and going forward with it. And also just to comply, as you probably already know, about with the municipal public construction laws, projects over $1.5 million, we have to hire an OPM anyway. So they would be like the real technical expertise to help weigh in as needed on certain things. But certainly the local expertise, the local feel of our community, what we want in their background is certainly more than welcome.
So with that said, gentlemen, you can send out a joint email from the board and the golf management committee, either from Mr. Flynn and myself as the chairs, to those advisory, those exploratory members, just say, hey, look, we'd like to ask your level of interest to serve as in an advisory capacity. Whoever signs up, says they want to do it, be still part of the process and help out, then we can sort of, I think we'd have to formally still, create an advisory committee of those people, just so everything's above board. Maybe more ad hoc on basis, ad hoc, and, get them to participate with you guys.
Great.
What would be great, Dave, if you with your committee, I don't know when you're meeting next.
It's Thursday.
Oh, you are? Okay, great. I think if you can come up with just a rough project timeline for us to get our heads around, like when do you think you'd want to see doors open, like if you can put those, work from that point backwards, and, some important things that we have to hit, benchmarks that we have to hit along the way, whether it's like meeting with bond counsel, whatever that is, right? I think I would feel very comfortable with Mr. Gasper working with you guys on the financial aspect of the project, on behalf of the board. I don't know if you're down for that, Kevin, but I know that's
Whatever you need.
I think that'd be really good, and I know Bob's strong on the hospitality side of it, and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses, and so we'd be more than happy to help out in that regard as well. So with that said, I'm super excited, really excited for you guys, and I'd be remiss if I didn't call out to you and to Dana. I think the course is officially closed, is that
Yes.
it? Right, so another banner year. I mean, I spent a lot of time there this year, and I saw Saturdays and Sundays and Fridays and
Right.
events, packed events. People always leaving with a smile on their face, really excited about the course, really excited about the prospects of the clubhouse. I think the best is yet to come for us over there. And one other thing though, I guess we've had some issues with some hunters out on the course. Please don't do that, because we've got recreational people walking. It's basically like it's a park, right? Like, and we wouldn't allow hunting in Pope Park, so we got to be careful about that. And
We still have staff working there too.
yeah, staff out there, and it's really dangerous, this time of year to be doing that type of activity. But for those in the community, it's a walkable trail. It's a park, right? We encourage people to get out there, and I know, Neil, you walk the course as part of your exercise routine, and which is great, and so that's another opportunity for people as well.
Absolutely.
In the off season. So
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I think we need to, I did see, I think it was from the chief of police department, something up on all things Acushnet. We do need to look into that though, because it's, it's recreation and things of the like, and, it's for passive recreation. I don't know. I understand we don't want hunters on the golf course, hunting on the golf course, but they also have to abide by a 500 foot from an occupied dwelling and things of the like, and if they're that far away, I don't know if technically we could stop that, right? So I think there's things that we need to look into before we just tell people, obviously on the grounds of the golf course, we don't want you hunting or they're anywhere near that, but there is a rule in place, 500 feet from an occupied dwelling. So I think we need to really look at that, because passive recreation is passive recreation, and hunting
Until
is a
someone gets
passive
shot.
recreation.
So I would err in favor of caution as opposed to.
Data, I don't think anybody's disputing that, right? First and foremost, the Board of Selectmen are responsible for the well-being and safety of our community and the
Correct.
people thereabouts, right? I'm not saying that. I just don't want to get into that, what kind of contest with people saying you can't do this, you can't do that. I think I dealt with something years ago about hunting on conservation land, right? And they were wrong when they said you can't hunt on conservation land. You absolutely can hunt on conservation land. So it's just it's a can of worms. I don't think I want to open up. I think we need to let people know absolutely no hunting on the grounds, but if you're out in the woods and it's part of the land that we own and it's far enough away, I don't know if you can stop them, is what I'm saying. So I think that's something that we need to look into. I know hunting season, I think muzzleloader is still open, primitive arms is still open, but we definitely need to look into that and see what we can or can't do on that property before we tell people
That's fair.
absolutely nothing. That's
fair.
all I'm saying.
We want people.
But
to be
I
safe.
absolutely will tell people, you absolutely cannot hunt, especially when the season's open, which we are still open, like bow and arrow, shotgun season, the golf course is still open. So obviously, we don't want people in the woods shooting. But most hunters realize that there's people around and you've got to be 500 feet away and things of the like.
The other night, I was locking the gate, and I saw a guy in the tree in that first recreational field that, on the access road. As I'm locking the gate, he's sitting there in a fluorescent vest up in the tree. I didn't walk it off, but it's a danger zone.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not saying some hunters might be violating the rules.
Yeah, it's 500 feet from the dwelling, and it's 150 feet from a road, from a paved road.
We'll figure it out. And I said, so somebody made a comment to me, and I'm like, well, we have maintenance there pretty much year round, right?
Right.
So you can't just say nobody's there. Our
Right.
maintenance staff is there, so
Yes.
we are responsible for our staff being there, and God forbid, we have somebody from maintenance out on the 9th hole, and there goes the arrow, or there goes the muzzleloader shot, right? So, I mean, it's just being.
Plus, too, I was making a point that it's an uncomfortable position for our staff to be in. If so-and-so's walking across, he's got a rifle on his shoulder, hey, you can't be here, but it's a testy situation, you know what I mean? So, yes, we should research it.
Yeah. Got it. Very good, thanks. Thanks, gentlemen. That's it. Great work, keep it up. Look forward to hearing from you after your meeting this week. And then we'll get moving. If you feel like you need a meeting with us after the first of the year, just to get everybody on the same page, we're open for that. But if not, get moving and, check in periodically.
I think definitely in January, just come back, even if it's just for a couple minutes, to come up with that proposed timeline.
Okay, that would be great.
Just do
Thank
it
you.
That way you guys know, and we can just keep moving.
Right, awesome.
Mr. Chairman, if you
Yes, sir.
want to work with the chairman of the Golf Management Committee, like you alluded to earlier, about
Yeah.
getting the exploratory committee and figuring out who does want to be and who doesn't want to be on it,
I'll do that.
to keep them guys moving forward. And Mr. Flynn, you're obviously titled the Golf Management Committee, so, it is your say, the Golf Management Committee's say on what will be done now moving forward. But again, the exploratory committee does have a lot of great ideas, and we have some people that have a lot of background and experience that can help out the golf management committee to say, don't do that for this reason, right? Or don't do that because this is the expense associated with that, right?
Exactly.
And that's where their expertise is gonna help us out, bring down costs, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, and then we just gotta figure out that floor plan a little bit better.
So it's a concept.
Because I still see the lounge area.
All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Happy holidays, thanks.
You too. All right, next item, gentlemen, on the agenda is Conservation Commission. Again, another housekeeping laundry item. Town meeting passed changing the bylaw to change the number of Conservation Commission members from 7 to 5. So now's the time we've got to act on that if we decide that's what we want to do. We went to town meeting to act on it, but want to get your thoughts before I, advance the issue. My inclination would be, we've got 7 members technically signed up. A couple are going to get cut. For me, it's looking at attendance, decorum, ability, the ability to execute, how they comport themselves, all of the above is going to be my standard. And we'll see what plays out, but if get your feedback, do we want to, ask everybody to just resubmit their intention to stay on the board? I want to throw it out there for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I was in support of the 5-member board simply because we were having trouble finding people signing up for it in the first place. And I know it was an amendment to a bylaw, but my question, and I didn't think of this until recently, is if this isn't our charter, we can't really do anything about it until we have it approved by the AG's
I
office.
checked with the town clerk, and she says that's not the case, and she submitted, I think she submitted to Jamie V and to Jamie Kelly. She said she submitted the bylaw that was approved, and we were okay to move forward,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. I mean, that was my number one concern, just so I wanted to verify that first. As it stands right now, we have a 5-member board. So we can always ask for letters of interest, but it ultimately comes down to our decision on who we appoint.
If you want to chew on it for a little bit, then we can come back. But I see people showing up, not showing up, and,
Yeah.
it's a 5-member board by default.
Yeah, I think my honest opinion is, and I have zero problem doing this, is reaching out to the people that are on the board, asking them if they're still interested and they plan on staying or resubmitting, and then we can maybe throw it on the next meeting and say, okay, so-and-so said yes. If all of them say yes, we can figure it out from there. But if there are members that decide that,
Yeah.
when their term is up, they were gonna be done, give them the chance to at least say, hey, maybe this is too much time for me, and give them an opportunity, and then we can open it up to the public.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I don't think that the board would have put it as a proposal at town meeting if we didn't mean that we wanted to get to 5 members, right? The problem, we need to look into it a little bit and see, and I'll be with council tomorrow on a couple of different matters in town that I'll be working on with council, so maybe I could just ask him the question of appointments, because they're revolving appointments. In the last May or June, we didn't appoint 2, but then like 2 more members have come up, and then 2 more members come up the way they're staggered. I don't know if we can just say, you're out, if your appointment hasn't come due yet, right? The only 2 that have come up were the previous 2 in May, June. Their terms had expired, so I guess right now they're kind of appointees at will. So I think that adds a little bit of a dynamic. I don't know if the Board of Selectmen have I'll call it the legal right to just wipe them out, if we wanted to wipe them out, or we have to wait as appointments come up. So I can look into that.
If you can do that, and I'd like if they can put it as a written opinion, because I view it as, it's a reset. We changed the bylaw, this was passed in I think 1960s. Bylaw's been amended, so to me, it's as if we're starting from scratch, but that's just my
I'll put
opinion.
it that way,
So
too.
if you can check with that.
100%.
Again, I'm just gonna be real candid, over the last several years, Conservation Commission, I think it's gotten to become a little bit more stable, but it's been a pain point for this town. Just look at the legal fees, and it's my intention, I know yours as well, but mine specifically is, I've got 3 months left in this seat, is to try to clean up as much stuff as possible, and if it offends some people along the way, then so be it. But that's the way it goes, and I don't think either one of you are afraid to offend anybody if it means getting things right. But
Correct.
happy to keep moving forward with that. So, all right, sounds good. Thanks, gentlemen. Sorry, I'm not scrolling Facebook and trying to do my stuff on.
He's looking at a menu.
Yeah. An important dinner later on. All right, library hour change. Got that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I can jump into that, so you can scroll.
Yep.
The current contract breaks the library employees into a separate group. We're still currently in the middle of negotiations for that, but one of the agreed upon changes to the contract was for the library. They currently have a split holiday, so they have a half a day on one holiday and a half a day on another one. And essentially, they asked if it would be possible if they just adopted that for this year, no modification of the contract. It does align with the current contract and the agreed upon decision from both the town and the union. So I asked the library essentially to have the Board of Trustees make an official vote on it, to refer it to the union, to see what the union would say. The union said this is fine, as long as everybody that works at the library is okay with it. Ultimately, what it breaks down to is, instead of having a half a day on Christmas Eve and a half a day on Good Friday, they wanted to have Christmas Eve off and work a full day on Good Friday. That was the consensus from the library employees. Library Board of Trustees approved it, the union approved it, and it comes to us. And
Motion to approve?
I'm okay with it. Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next item is our annual license review. We've got a little different approach, try to get things a little bit more streamlined. Shout out to Margaret for her help, jumping in, new to the job and getting things organized, working with Jamie V. And so I think what we'll do is, we'll try this year, is we'll read out the business entity and the address, the license that they're looking for. And there's nothing flagged there. And then obviously everything is always contingent upon all their taxes and fire inspections being done. So let's give this a shot, gentlemen. If it gets a little bit confusing, just let me know and we'll slow it down. But first business entity is the American Legion at 71 Hope Street. They're applying for a common vic, an all-alcohol club, a restricted music and automatic amusements. They are in compliance with everything. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next one is the VFW. They are applying for a common vic, all alcohol club, restricted music, automatic amusements. I believe there was one issue with the VFW.
Fire inspection.
Yeah, so, but the VFW, we have a meeting scheduled on the 22nd, right, to deal with their issue with the ABC.
Yep.
So we can approve everything else. They have a fire inspection, right?
Thursday morning.
When's that?
Thursday morning.
Thursday morning? Okay, so we can approve contingent upon fire inspection being done, and we'll take up the all alcohol license on the 22nd.
Now, is that 28 Roosevelt Street?
Yeah, 28 Roosevelt Street, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the common vic, the restricted music, and the automatic amusements?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. The next one is the Acushnet River Valley Golf Course, 685 Main Street, common vic, all alcohol license. Is there a motion to approve? I just said it, 685 Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Blue Lantern Cafe, 605 Main Street, common vic, all alcohol license, restricted music, and automatic amusements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Blue Point, 6 Dayton Street, and that is a common vic, all alcohol. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Captain's Place, 162 South Main Street, common vic, all alcohol, restricted music, subject to a fire inspection, and that's going to be taking place
Thursday
Thursday as
morning.
well, okay?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's contingent.
Yep. Century House, 107 South Main Street, and that's a common vic, all alcohol, and a restricted music. All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
You
carries.
got me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my eyes are doing tricks on me. The Country Whip, 1173 Main Street, and that's a common vic. Again, subject to all paperwork being submitted.
Motion to approve,
Contingent on tax.
contingent on taxes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Acushnet Creamery, and that is 264 Main Street, and that's just a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Dunkin' Donuts, and that is just a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Just for note, that's 150 South Main
Yep,
Street.
thank you.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Seafood Hut, and that's 2 South Main Street, and that's a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Cam's Cuisine, and that's 132 Main Street.
That should be corrected to 132 South Main Street.
South Main Street, okay. And that is a common vic, a all alcohol, and a restricted music.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Rochelle's, and that's 590, 594 Main Street, and that's a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The Mill, 156 South Main Street, and that is a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The Ponderosa, 242 Robinson Road, and that is a common vic, all alcohol, restricted music, automatic amusements.
Motion to approve contingent upon payment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Rivers End Cafe, 7.5 Tarkland Hill Road, and that's a common vic, all alcohol license, restricted music, automatic amusements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. JT's Pub, 77 Slocum Street, and that is common vic, all alcohol, restricted music, automatic amusements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New England Farms, 158 Main Street, that is a common vic, wine and malt package store.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Pope Park, 122 Main Street, that is a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Silverbrook Farms, 934 Main Street, that is a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scuttlebutts, 590 South Main Street, that is a all alcohol package store.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Chuck's Liquors, 172 South Main Street, that is a all alcohol package store license.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discount Town Liquors, 1 Middle Road, that is an all alcohol package store license.
We do one.
No.
You see it? Yeah, it's coming up. Oh, did I skip over that? Sorry about that. We'll go to Bonville's then. Bonville's, and that's 142 South Main Street, all alcohol package store license.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discount Liquors, 1 Middle Road, all alcohol package store.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Liquor Palace, 270 Main Street, that's an all alcohol package store.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. What do we got here? New York Bagel, 158 Main Street, and that's a common vic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we got, now this is,
All class twos.
yeah, all class twos. Repwell Corp., 734 Main Street, that is a class two.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Second. Oh, yeah, aye.
Motion carries. Hayes Street Auto Sales, 3 Hayes Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Ted's, 308 Middle Road.
Motion to approve class two.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. South Coast Premium, 127 South Main Street, and contingent upon fees being paid.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Contingent upon payment.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Shawmut Auto. Class
Motion to approve.
118 South Main
Oh,
Street.
yeah, yeah.
Second.
118 South Main Street. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Murray's Auto Sales, 75 Lambert Street, Class 2.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Custom Auto Sales, 1416 South Main Street, Class 2.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so now Class 3s. Repwells, 734 Main Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Ray's Sales and Service, 4 Morton Lane.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Laycock Auto Research and Development,
1256.
1256 Main Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Fred's Collision, 36 Slocum Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, again, thank you, Margaret, for pulling this together for us. And just one added item is, you know, Margaret worked the phones and called a number of people to ask them to come in. And I know all three of us are out there talking to our license holders. I think it's important for us. They're all busy trying to run their businesses, and the more business-friendly we can be with that kind of stuff, I think it's a good thing for everybody. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
just for anybody in town with licenses that is listening, if you hear this, update contact information if you have it. Sometimes it gets lost in the mix, and Margaret and I spent some time going through some contact lists, trying to find appropriate contacts for people, and there's been a couple changeovers of ownership in the past couple of years, so if anybody feels the need, stop by town hall and update phone numbers and mailing addresses if it's separate from the address listed.
Great. All right, next item is Jesse Ellis from the school committee. Last week, I met with Mr. Ellis and Paul Bailey, superintendent, to talk about the current state of play regarding air quality. There's been some new changing dynamics. I know Mr. Hinckley is really involved in sort of our quasi point person on that issue. But with that said, I offered up to Mr. Ellis in the school department the opportunity to come in and sort of frame the issue of where things are and what's different than before. So, and the floor is yours.
Okay. So first and foremost, thank you, Chairman Wonar and the Select Board, for having me up. Just to give both you and the town an update on where we stand in terms of the air quality improvement project at the Acushnet Elementary School. I have some kind of basic slides here. Obviously, we're not set up to be able to share those at the moment. However, I can certainly provide them after the fact, unless there's a way to connect.
Can we plug in this thing?
There's no HDMI cable on this, so it'd have to be
Alright, that's
USB.
fine.
There's not a tremendous amount of information here, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So, essentially, the process has been ongoing for a number of years at this point. Most recently, there was a public information session on April 16th of this year, where the school committee at that time and administration, along with the select board and some other town administration, presented the proposal that had been arrived at by Train, which is the engineering company that had been selected after the bidding and vetting process to put together a solution to the mold issue and overall air quality at the elementary school. The proposal was based on an investment grade audit, which Train handled on their own. We did have vetted by Beth Greenblatt, who is an independent consultant that went over the plans, and we worked in consultation with Eversource with regards to rebates and the state with regards to some grant money. There haven't been any changes to the proposal that was put forth at the April 16th meeting. The funding source that had been decided on by the school committee and the town was to pursue a Prop 2.5 debt override to fund the 20-year bond on the project. Obviously, the town elections came and went. That Prop 2.5 override was not approved by the residents of the town. At that point, conversations continued with regards to moving the project forward, determining a funding source, and there were meetings that I personally was not privy to. They came before my election to the school department, or school committee, and also I just recently was nominated as the air quality improvement project liaison to the town.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know, lucky me, right? So that nomination just occurred, not at this most recent school committee meeting, but the prior meeting. I spent some time prior to this past meeting getting involved in researching where we stand with the project. And one of the things that was discovered, not by myself, but although to his great credit in his conversations with Train, determined that there were some problems with the proposal as it was presented to the town back at the information session. Essentially, the original proposal was to attack the project in not necessarily a couple of different phases, but in 3 different methods that would all come together in a single scope of work. Those included air quality purification and dehumidification, as well as upgrades to the building management system, ventilation duct sealing, and a number of other things. That was the lion's share of the project. It accounted for about $4.1 million of the presented $4.2 million overall project cost. That involves the replacement of a significant number of equipment, significant number of pieces of equipment, along with a lot of other individual pieces of the puzzle that would be fairly difficult to enact on their own. The second portion of the project was the building envelope and air infiltration improvements. That accounted for about $251,000 worth of the overall project cost. That included helping to literally seal the building envelope, the exterior, and prevent exterior air infiltration, or at least mitigate exterior air infiltration to the best of our ability. And that was actually to take place at both AES and Ford. Like I said, that accounted for about $251,000. For anybody who's not familiar with building envelope, it's essentially the equivalent of fixing drafty windows, drafty doors, ways that air from the outside of the building and moisture from the outside of the building can infiltrate into the building. There was also the school cafeteria, refrigerator, and freezer replacement. That was something that was going to account for about $500,000 worth of overall project costs, and that would also include both the elementary and Ford middle schools. That has been an ongoing issue for some time, and it was convenient that we were able to work with a contractor for the overall scope of the project that would also be able to handle the refrigerator and freezer replacement at the same time. But those are essentially the three major segments of the project. We've got the building envelope, the cafe, refrigerator, and freezer replacements, and then the vast majority of it is all involved in the dehumidification, air purification, and building management system upgrades. So the originally proposed project costs were $4.2 million. We were looking at getting a $500,000 Green Communities grant due to the nature of the project. And then there was also an estimate of about $200,000 in rebates from Eversource. It's tough to get a hard number on what the Eversource reimbursement rebates would be, because that's essentially gauged after the fact based on improvements to building efficiency. But the rough estimate was about $200,000, not a hard number though. That left out of the $4.2 million, about $3.5 million at the responsibility of the town. That would be handled via a 20-year bond to finance the project. There are detailed breakdowns on what the difference is between the principal and the interest that were included in the April 16th presentation that's still available and holds firm. On October 28th, Train received guidance that the proposed solution to maintain a significant portion of the existing infrastructure in the building, including air handling equipment and other related equipment, would not be compatible with the scope of the project if procurement of those pieces of equipment and procurement of refrigerant and some other related project costs weren't completed by the end of this year. So we're talking before January 1st of 26. Obviously that came very late in the game. Essentially what it meant was they received that guidance. The guidance specifically was that the existing air handling equipment and a large subset of the other existing equipment could not be used with the proposed existing project scope unless a large segment of that equipment were manufactured and or imported to the US before the end of this year. That basically created a situation where there was really no fulfillment timeline for Train to source that equipment in a timely fashion to be able to get it into the States before the project moved into the next year. So we're talking before January 1st. To all those immense credit, he worked with Train to try and find alternative solutions to procuring the equipment. Unfortunately, because of the late, how late in the game we we're talking like learning it essentially 2 months before the end of the year, that they were going to have to procure a very large amount of product that just wasn't feasible. That there was no way that it was going to happen. So the only way that Train is able to modify, or the proposal that Train had was essentially to modify the original scope of work. Before I get into that, I'm just going to read a little bit of information straight from the Environmental Protection Agency's guidance related to the AIM Act. That was a federal law that was passed some time ago, and it's related specifically to the phase down of hydrofluorocarbons I did have to practice saying that a few times. And the restrictions of use of hydrofluorocarbons under that AIM Act for refrigerant systems moving forward. So the Environmental Protection Agency's guidance that was instituted December 12th and put into place January 13th of this year states that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is amending a provision of the 2023 Technology Transition Regulations promulgated under the American Innovations and Manufacturing Act, AIM Act, of 2020. The action provides until January 1st, 2027 for the installation of certain new variable refrigerant flow, air conditioning, and heat pump systems which use components manufactured in the United States or imported into the United States prior to January 1st, 2026. Provided that the systems use components manufactured in the United States or imported into the United States prior to January 2026. The original scope of the project the cost was kept down because there was a significant amount of the existing infrastructure that, according to the original guidance from the EPA, would still be able to be used along with the new systems that are going to be installed. On October 28th, guidance was received by Train that that would no longer be an option unless all necessary systems had been procured and imported before the end of this year. So next we're going to kind of go over essentially steps that have been taken so far to date. We're also going to go over projected cost increases of the project as it stands. There'll be an opportunity for some basic questions from the board or anybody else present. Essentially, getting us to where we're at right now, just to reiterate some of the steps that the schools have taken. The school, after the mold was reported, I believe that it was in 2023, correct me if I'm wrong, is that accurate, Dr. Bailey? Thank you. The school was cleaned. There was a professional cleaning company brought in, Serpro, I believe it was, to handle mold remediation and removal. They also disposed of a significant amount of chairs, rugs, bulletin boards, and basically anything that was determined to be not recoverable. Getting mold into upholstery is obviously a big issue, and sometimes it's quite difficult to get rid of that. So rather than just cleaning it and putting it in storage, the decision was made to dispose of a significant amount of that. We also went through a process of roof water infiltration patching. So that involved a lot of capping of pipes, repairing damage to the roof to help prevent an excess amount of water from infiltrating into the building from rainwater, condensation, snow, that kind of thing. There was also installation of temporary portable dehumidifiers that have been placed in essentially every building in the room. I think right now there's 63 or 65 of those units that are running 24/7. They run quite a bit more, obviously, during hot and humid weather, well, a lot less this time of year. But long story short, there's about 63 of those units in use currently. There were also some minor repairs made to the heating system and ventilation. Those have either been completed or are underway. Biggest reasons for that are that moderating the temperature in the building and doing the school's best to make sure that the temperature is as consistent as possible from room to room and area to area, as well as making sure that there's adequate ventilation, are both steps that can be taken to help reduce the likelihood of mold growth. And like I said before, any unneeded furniture, equipment, and supplies have been removed or disposed of. There was also, this is not part of the preparation that I had here, but I do believe that there were also air purifiers installed in the same number of rooms. We have roughly the same number of air purifiers as we have dehumidifiers. Right. So, timeline of the overall project. In June 24, the investment grade audit was put underway. October 24, Train completed the investment grade audit and entered into contract negotiation. April 25, April 25, we had the public information session and the debt exclusion vote at town ballot. That vote ultimately was not approved by the residents and failed to procure funding for the project. The project did not go away at that time. Work continued to be put into finding avenues to secure funding, either from the state, additional grant money, and reviewing the scope of project to see if any changes could be made to reduce the overall cost, while still delivering equivalent results. So in November 25, so that was November 1st, I believe, Acushnet Public Schools was informed by Train of a change to, what's the word I'm looking for? Change of guidance regarding existing EPA regulations. And then those regulations necessitate that by December 31st, refrigerant and equipment must be manufactured domestically or imported by this date. And December 31st, 2026, equipment must be installed in order to meet those EPA regulations. Overall increase of cost, unfortunately, you know, it's never fun to be the bearer of bad news, but because the timeline for procuring that equipment was really not feasible, the only option that Train has presented to this point has been a projected increase of cost of the project, which would include replacement of any of the now deemed incompatible air handling equipment to the tune of an additional $2.5 million. That's just an estimate. Reevaluating those proposed figures is a very lengthy process, and they did their best to give a ballpark estimate. Could be a little lower, could be a little higher, but 2.5 they feel is a safe number. That $2.5 million is due to the updated guidance on EPA regulations necessitating the replacement of a large segment of the existing equipment. In anticipated project inflation costs are $2.5 million over the existing proposed $4.2 million from 2 years ago. That would increase the projected cost of the project as it stands to $7 million approximately. So obviously that's a pretty big nut, unfortunately. We already struggled to secure funding for the proposed $4.2 million, so trying to find funding for a $7 million project is a whole nother ball of wax. Again, to all those credit, he has also entered into conversation with the town's investment banker firm to look at the feasibility of a short-term funding solution that would allow us to get the project started before the rebates come in, and then saving the rebate money that we receive from grants and Eversource to help pay down the cost of the project in the long term. That's a little more technical than I'm comfortable getting into right now, but it involves a 2-year ban for the initial, or a portion of the initial project cost. That's something that he's in much better position to discuss with the select board and the finance committee than I am, so I won't speak at length to that. Essentially, that's where we stand right now. I don't have a specific course of action that we're looking to pursue. It's very early in the game. There's a lot of things to consider in terms of the effectiveness of the different aspects of the proposed project, what we can move forward on in a phased approach, and what we cannot. Ultimately, there's going to be a big segment of the project that really can't be phased. Just the nature of the beast when you're replacing big segments of equipment. Any questions from the board?
No, I mean, you know, when we met, like I said, to offer you time, right, access and to get the message out, I think, you know, we run the risk of price tag validating the project, and I don't think that's a good practice. It's an important thing to keep in mind, but also we've got to address a need, right? And so I think that should be the guiding principle in this effort. Obviously, if there's a way to do it in a more affordable way, I think that's our fiduciary responsibility, right? And so, I mean, you said it's early in the game, you know, even just the mechanics of it. You got town meeting, and you know, there's other steps in the process, but I commend you for bringing it to our attention now. Really, not saying, well, you know, it's the holidays, we don't need to deal with this, we'll kick the can down the road. So, you know, we'll just keep feeding this information, and the finance committee, we're going to be really important stakeholders in this process. And you know, I don't know, gentlemen, your thoughts on this? Bob, you've been really involved in I appreciate all those leaning in, still relatively new to the position, but jumping in, and same to Paula, I appreciate it, Dr. Bailey, and to the school committee. I know this is an important issue, and I know you're gonna put your heart and soul into getting it right, whatever that means.
Yeah, I think, there are avenues forward, but they're really unclear right now, so I wouldn't be comfortable speaking to any of them. That's really going to take consultation with the town, consultation with legal, the town's legal counsel, and of course, determining what the best use of funds is going to be. Ultimately, what we're looking at is a solution to reduce the indoor humidity and moderate the temperature within the building. I have a lot of thoughts on the Band-Aid solution that we have in place. I do personally feel that the project as it was presented would be a solution, not a Band-Aid fix. That's something that can certainly be discussed in other meetings. I'm sure that if there's opportunity to be a great idea to have some more public information sessions, but we'll determine what the best course of action moving forward is. I know I've already met with Selectman Hinckley. He's the liaison for the project from the town side. Met with Dave. Sorry, Kevin, this is the first time you get to hear about it. I do what I can. But I'm not on the docket for the 5 o'clock meeting, but I am going to be available. If anybody has any questions beforehand or afterwards, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, and again, this is like the first step. I just want to at least get the issue out there. There's going to be multiple sessions, I'm sure, being hosted at the school department. So tonight's not the night to solve the problem, but I know, Bob, as courtesy to you, you've been really involved in this thing. We'll give you the opportunity to speak up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ellis reached out to sit down to get me up to speed yesterday, which really gave me some insight on the EPA guidelines and trying to understand. We're looking into currently to see if there's any possible exemptions or ability to have any hardship
Push the timeline out.
situation that'll push the timeline out. But I have a really good working relationship with Mr. Ellis, and we're gonna put our heads together and jump in, and we'll schedule some meetings with Dr. Bailey and Aldo and figure it out. Hearing more feedback as this process went on, I know it got a little bit into the weeds earlier in the year, but we did get some confirmation about some clarity in the process and the functionality of the system and how it would fix the problem. But I think between myself and Mr. Ellis and the school admin and this board, we can figure this out. But like Mr. Ellis said, it's still very early. I mean, I was just informed of this yesterday. So I don't really have much to speak on other than the fact that I don't understand why an air handler can't be reused because it has no VOCs or, it has no chemicals inside of an air handler. So I want to get some guidance on that before I speak on it anyway, just to get narrowed down. I'd like to get back into the trade as well, and see if there's any other options for equipment that does have enough of a American-backed or imported assembled situation that we can figure this out and go from there.
Train's facility is located in Mexico, that's why they keep talking about importing, right? It's an American company made in Mexico, so that's why they talk about import. So I would caution the school committee, yourself, Mr. Ellis, on, we're talking about an escalator now of probably 33% addition to that project cost, and if the 72% of the people said no at 4 million, how many percentage of the people you think is going to say no to 7 million for the exact same system, right? So I think, the stage approach is something that I would love to have a conversation with you and the rest of the school committee on, is how can we do it in stages without those big numbers being hit at us, right? We the Board of Selectmen, are responsible for all town buildings, so we, the Board of Selectmen, will do whatever we can to make sure that we have adequate buildings in our community at a reasonable cost, and that we can afford, and the townspeople can afford. So, and before anyone goes out for a 2-year, and you start talking about bans, the one thing we won't do is Band-Aid a project. So when you ban something, you're not gonna go out and put us in a hole where we're trapped now and a penny of $500,000 or $1 million and say, well, we have no choice now because we've done this and that led to this without the taxpayers voting it, right? So before we do any kind of banning, that's a whole dialogue you can come back.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm not comfortable speaking to the nuts and bolts of that
Right.
aspect of the proposal.
So I think
It's just an option.
just doing it in stages is the best bet, and maybe there's other options out there other than train telling us what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, all options are open, and it's to Dave's point, it's going to take some time to review the options as they stand and potentially consider new ones. There's just a lot of unknowns.
So
This is more of an
the big
informational
concern,
piece.
I think, Mr. Hinckley and I were at that meeting with you folks when you were on the school committee at that point at the Ford Middle School. We had that meeting. It's basically, you're asking people to borrow and pay for something for 20 years for a system that might last 10 or 15 years, right? That's the problem with that system, right? There's no, and I asked, what's the warranty? Can we get some extended thing? And I don't even think it went out to 20 years. So we gotta be conscientious of that, right? You wouldn't go out and buy something for your household and finance it for 20 years if it's only got a 10-year shelf life, right? That's ignorant, right? So we need to look at all of that stuff and try to figure things out and see what we actually need and not what we want.
Yep,
Right? That's where we're at, right? So we can figure it out.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas, I appreciate you coming in. We do have another meeting, and so, again, this was informational to get the issue back out on the table, and appreciate you doing that.
Of course, thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask just for a brief recess to get our tech stuff set up, but we do have an all-hands-on-deck meeting with our department heads, members of the finance committee, just to kind of paint the picture of the town finances, where we are as we go into the budget season. This way, there's no questions, right? I should say, there's always going to be questions, but there's no question about where we stand on things and how we plan to tackle them. So with that said, can you have a brief 10-minute recess to get our tech stuff set up? So moved. Second. All those in favor? Aye. A motion to call the meeting back to order. So moved. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Great. Thank you all for being here. As we sort of formally kick off the budget process after the first of the year, the board, we wanted to bring in all of our department heads and finance committee members and important stakeholders to just give you a snapshot of what's going on with town finances. I think it's actually, despite the actual numbers, I think there's a good story to tell, is that all of you in this room are really the backbone of this community. Keeping things running on a day-to-day basis. Some of it's glorious, and for some it's behind the scenes, and some residents have no idea who you are or what you do, so we wanted to make sure that we brought you here today to recognize the work that you do, and thank you for keeping things moving. And whether you're, management is tough. If you're a department head or an elected official or an appointed official, ultimately people look to you not necessarily when things go great, but when things go wrong, and that's where that responsibility comes in. And I've had a chance to work with pretty much all of you in this room, and the one thing that is the common thread is that there isn't a person in this room who's unwilling to accept the responsibility when things go bad. So for that, thank you very much. I think that's a really great characteristic to have. A couple folks in the room that I want to recognize, our state representatives, Mark Sylvia and Steve Willett are here. Asked them on short notice to come up to come and listen to our presentation, so they will keep us in mind when they're walking the halls of Beacon Hill. So thank you for that. You guys are always here, and we really appreciate it. Couple unsung heroes. Jamie Kelly, who's playing hurt. He's on the injured reserve list. He had a knee replacement, but he's still been working to help things move in the right direction. And Jamie V, who is our assistant town accountant, but has really become a Swiss Army knife over the last couple months to keep things moving as well. So before we do that, just want to set the foundation of where we're at right now. So leading up to the budget process, there's some things that we have to do foundationally in order to get ready to go into a budget, right? Is that the board works with the finance team and the finance committee to file a tax recap and certify with the DOR. Mr. Gasper was really a big piece of that. And then also work with the Board of Assessors, that elected body, and Kelly Koska in that department to get our tax classification hearing and vote to set the tax rate, and then get certified with the DOR. So we can't start diving into the budget until we get all of these things in place. And again, a lot of moving pieces over the last couple months, but to get that done in a timely manner is really, really important. And with that said, we can't run government, town government, without the taxpayer. And Jen Grant, our tax collector, treasurer collector, she's going to give you a little peek behind the hood. I think this is a really good story to tell and a really important one. Look at what our residents are doing. So Jen, if you want to speak to that, because again, we have to have good fundamentals, good process in place before we can start thinking about how we're going to spend the money. And again, not glamorous, not glitzy, but Jen and her team, and Tanya, who's jumped in there, and Karen, doing a great job on a day-to-day basis. So Jen, if you want to give us your report.
Sure, thank you all for having us. So our collections are extremely well at this time. Like you see, just on the preliminary, we're at 99.71 for personal property, 96.66 on the real estate. So overall, that's great. The new tax bills for the actuals are gonna go out at the end of December. We just finished train today, so the residents will get their tax bills probably the week after Christmas. Our online deposits are increasing. So we are trying to modernize, streamline, make everything more efficient. And from 2024 to 2025, we had a 67.8% of increase by people paying online. We now accept PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, I believe. Not 100% confident on that. And then we are trying to work with other departments to expand. So the DPW you can now pay the recycling items online, show your receipt, so people don't have to come to the town hall to pay for those items. And we're working with other departments, building, pay permits online, town clerk, we're hoping to get that up and running as well. So without my team, I want to give a huge shout out. We have an amazing team. The teamwork that we have with the accountant's office and everyone in town hall, you guys just make everyone's lives easier for the treasurer collector's office.
Thanks, Jen. Again, think about that. 99.71% of our residents are paying their taxes. They're showing up quarterly. They're doing their job. If we were chasing people to pay their tax bill and spending time and resources to do that, then we can't provide the services that they're paying for. So to the taxpayers of Acushnet, thank you for doing that. We're trying to make it easier, right? Because as things progress, we can get people to go online and use technology to help lighten the load. We have a skeleton crew. We really do, and we're not bursting at the seams with a lot of staff. We're doing the best we can. So if we can use technology to lighten the load on our employees, I think that's always a good thing. So again, thank you to the residents of Acushnet for stepping up and participating in this process and being good stewards of the town. With that said, I'll turn it over to Jamie Kelly, who's going to just kind of talk about, again, the mechanics of how we get into a budget. We look at forecasting and operational budget and what makes up a budget and the budget process. And then Jamie V will actually get into the numbers of that. And then that'll give us an idea of what we're looking at as we go into the budget season. So with that said, we'll turn it over to Jamie Kelly if we can pull him up on TV.
Good evening.
No, 1 second, Jamie. You're not quite there yet. There you go.
There we go.
All right. Good evening. Mr. Chairman, if I may, a bit of personal privilege. I'd like to thank everyone for their well wishes after my surgery. And if I don't see any of you, I want to wish you Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays. But now up to the business at hand. When we start the budget process, we have to know how much money we're going to spend, and that means we have to forecast our revenue. It's an exercise where we go through to see our capacity in providing services, funding projects, and paying our debts. We also have to correct our past estimates so we make sure we have the proper bases to develop our new estimates. And we have to figure out the impact of the budgetary decisions vis-a-vis the revenue and vis-a-vis what services we must provide to the taxpayers. It's fairly simple. There are 4 major sources of revenue. The major source is the tax levy. It's approximately 60%. We have to determine that. It's very formulaic. The finance team, especially the assessor's office, gets us the data and we put it together. And we determine how much the tax levy is going to bring in. We have to then estimate the state aid, which is aid to education and general government aid. And that goes from the Governor's House 1 budget through the House of Representatives and then the Senate to determine what the state's going to assist us with. And then we have to estimate our local receipts. Local receipts are everything from motor vehicle excise tax to the fees we collect to the money we make in investments on the town accounts. And then there are minor other sources of revenue that we use to balance the budget. We have a number of concerns based on the economy and the impact of the economy on new growth, on sources of revenue, and so at that point, we then deliver our estimates to the policymakers. They determine the budget priorities and guidelines. That's the Board of Selectmen for the town side and the school committee for the school side. You then drill down and set departmental budgets. You identify if there are any budgetary surpluses or shortfalls from past years, so you know pitfalls to fall into, and if there's anything potentially that you can do to take a budgetary surplus, spend it in this fiscal year so you do not have to spend it in next fiscal year. And then you project long-term costs of such things as collective bargaining. You project your debt service, you project your fixed cost, and you develop a consensus on those projections, and you go into developing the municipal budget. So there are priorities you look at prior to determining costs of services or personnel. They are your legally mandated costs. Are we at that page? I do not see the right now the presentation on my screen.
Yeah, Jamie, I think we've done a really good job of teeing up the mechanics of the budget and how we put together the budget. I think people have a good understanding of that. If you have anything else to add, if not, I'm gonna turn it over to Jamie V, who can share with us like what we actually have in the way of revenue, what we've spent so far, and talk about some other best practices. So it's just because of the optics of it, with you zooming in, I'd like to transition over to Jamie, if that's, other Jamie, if that's okay.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, I just would like to echo your compliments to the finance team, our principal assessor, our treasurer collector, assistant treasurer collector, and our assistant accountant. They helped me before I left for my sick leave on surgery, teeing up all these things, and that's why you're seeing the tax bills going out in a timely manner, and a number of the things that had to be done with the Department of Revenue prior to that. It is because of their hard work and their cooperation working as a team. So I just want to compliment them.
Yeah, great. Thank you again, Jamie. And I think, you know, a testament for you, you're people like to work for you. And I think the fact that everybody's rallied around this effort here collectively is a testament to you and your teamwork as well. So thank you very much, and appreciate all you're doing for the town in this capacity. So with that said, turn it over to Jamie V, who will get into the numbers and talk about kind of what we're actually dealing with and what we're looking at. Just to put a little bit of more meat on the bones that Jamie described.
Jamie, don't go anywhere, all right?
Oh, I'm not leaving.
Oh, we might be able to keep your face up there while we go through it.
You want to look at?
I don't
Oh, you don't want us to see, you don't want us to see you drinking. All right, get him off the screen.
So this is kind of where Jamie's kind of, can you hear me? Not really
Is the
soft.
mic on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, glad you can. So on this slide, Jamie's, where am I, operational? All right, so we can stop that. These are just the slides Jamie just ran through. Municipal budgeting, you know, like you said, the school debt, the contractuals, collective bargaining, employee, you know, pension, cost of services, personnel, goods. You know, I know we just reviewed that, stabilization appropriations, what, you know, every town meeting, we try and put money away, you know, for accounts or, you know, rainy day funds. If something happens, we have the backup there. Capital budgets, so looking at like chapter 90, capital assets, we've talked, Dave Warren and I are doing like a capital project, you know, 5-year plan, maybe working with departments. What are your infrastructure, what are your needs for vehicles, technology updates? You know, let's start doing a plan 5 years out, seeing, you know, so we know what we need to start funding for the future. Sorry, I'm trying to see from here to here. Really not that easy. Okay. So again, Jamie briefed on this, the revenue sources. We have the tax levy, comes in state, you know, state aid. The increase is about 0.5% to 1% per year. Local receipts, it all fluctuates depending on what's going on, you know, new construction, you know, for permit fees and ambulances and whichever else. So we've got coming in, to, you know, we use it to balance the budget for the most part.
I'll drive for you.
Okay.
I don't want to flow.
No, I know, I'm trying to like, hit enter. No, just-
Enter.
Yep.
There we go. All right.
Alright. So, no, Jamie had prepped these slides, so just FYI. Trying to move through the flow here. We have reviewed it, so this kind of gives you, the year-to-date is based on November amounts. where we stood. New growth was just certified with the tax, when we set the tax rate to the 192.4. The unused levy capacity, 116,000. So we have the 154 for abatements, which is, real estate abatements, personal property. We've got the exemptions, the veterans exemptions, the elderly exemptions. They're all tied in there.
Next slide.
Yep. This kind of gives you where those numbers come from. So you get the tax levy, where it's a large percentage of the revenue for the town. 60 to 61 to 64% of the town's revenue is based there. You get new growth. We don't know what it's going to be every year, depending on what the construction is. Again, we got the abatements, the heroes exemption, which is new. Bob Hinckley was just letting me know that that's come down the pipeline, which could be a huge hit for this town. In good way for, ones that deserve it. We have the solar funds. The school, go ahead. All right, so the chapter 7, the state and local aid, same idea. So you get the state funding.
Hey,
Can we, you gotta slow down.
I feel like Jamie's talking about a lot of these things. Like these are the things that we're on the hook for, and this goes into the budgeting process, right? So these are sort of the mandates that we have to work through, and these are the things that, in a kind way, that are keeping us up at night, right? So it's like we've got operational day-to-day, but this is just to give you an idea of these are some things that, mosquito control, air pollution, RMV non-renewal surcharges, regional transit. They're not, readily available. It's not like DPW stuff. It's not schools. It's not Conservation Commission. These are things that we have to take care of on behalf of, not only Acushnet residents, but overall. So this is, again, to our representatives, state aid it's not really keeping up with inflation. It's not keeping up with the services that we need to provide. I think we got a little bit silly during COVID where we got pumped in with a lot of one-time funds and we felt good about it. And I think we're in a mindset of let's just get through this. But that's all now starting to come to roost. So, to our elected delegation, we're not looking for a handout. We're not looking for anything other than helping, the taxpayers when they're paying their state tax, their state income tax. That's above and beyond your local property taxes and excise taxes. We're hoping to see more of what we're sending up to Boston. Again, these are some other pieces of the equation that we're dealing with, and this is one that sticks out. Is that most recently we had a vote, Old Colony. People that I talked to, it failed miserably. It wasn't necessarily because of people didn't think there was a need. It was how we're going to pay for it. And a big piece of the missing piece of the equation is the reimbursement for new construction is woefully inadequate. Woefully inadequate, and we're hoping that there is legislation that looks to address that disparity, to build any school for that matter. Like shouldn't be based on whether you're a rich town or a poorer town. It should be across the board, right? And put the money. If we're going to talk the talk of millionaires tax and education, put it into new infrastructure. I think that's what we need. Again, these are some other, Jamie, sorry to jump in there.
We can switch seats.
No, that's all right. But again, we're just sharing with you what we're working on. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So again, the license and permits, today we actually just voted to increase the building ones. We'll be working on updating the rest of the permits for the town, coming up, for the local receipts. Again, economy driven for the new construction, what's going on for new growth and permits. So, you never know what it's gonna be each year. Only estimate.
All right, I'll turn it back over to you.
So Jen had spoke in regards to the local receipts and, the revenue that we've received and how it's coming in. So I guess we're really good paying your bills, which is great. So we have the local option for the meals tax, which is about $100,000. I know we have the solar tax, it's about $153,000 that we get for that. But we try and, you never know what it's gonna be, so we budget 75 to 80%, of previous actuals. In 2022, the finance team at the time, just, reviewed the investments and had chosen to invest in a better situation than the money was sitting in. So the bank, so we have received over $1 million in interest since then. Permit fees, again, the fees that we're reviewing, trying to keep everything up to date so we're not way behind or below other towns, so we're more current. So these numbers here are based on November again, that we had put together. In general, we're doing really good with numbers. I just ran them again today. We're about, everything's pretty much 50%, since we're 6 months in. So we're in line where we should be. Same with the expenses, but. So you get the revenue from the EMS, which, which is a significant amount. We use to fund, budget. We use to, purchase new equipment. We've got the water surplus that we use. FY 25-26, the institute of offset for the indirect funds, kind of back charging for golf and the enterprise sewer accounts for pensions, insurance, that way we kind of recoup it in the general fund, that way they're paying their own.
I just want to highlight, so we talked about back charging, for the golf course stuff. Is it a huge help to the budget? Not necessarily, but when we're looking for pennies, it's an important piece of it. And also, it's just a matter of tightening up all of our process, right? If you got one loose end here, one loose end there, one loose end there, and then you get a bunch of loose ends. So one of the things that the finance team and the board of selectmen are really committed to is making sure that we're trying to tie up as many loose ends as possible. So then when we go into the budget process, the integrity of that process is there, right? And so, again, it may not be visible, it may not be glitzy or glamorous, but those things do add up, and if you start stacking all of those efficiencies, then at least you can look people in the eye and say, we're doing this the right way, but the money's the money.
So this is, again, kind of just reiterating, the new growth, it's not expected, but it's pretty consistent with the state aid as a minimal, 0.5 to 1% increase. Conservative on the local receipts, as you don't know what they're going to be. You just kind of, guesstimate for most of them, fees and permits questionable. And then the investments, you don't know what the percentages that you're gonna get. So these are our obligations, things that, we need to pay. Employee benefits, so we're, expecting an increase of 80,000 in pension, between the insurances, you're looking about, almost 500,000, collective bargaining about 500,000. Then you don't know what the general education, between the high, the Acushnet schools, the high schools, the vocational schools, we're not sure exactly what those increases will be for the next year, but it's something that we need to.
But we know right, with our obligated increases, we're at over $1 million. New growth, what are we saying, between 600 and 800,000, right? So
Yeah, you got roughly $800,000 between 192 and new growth and your roughly 580 and a levy increase, the 2.5 levy increase, so something that's pretty consistent year over year.
And the thing is, I think we've got to, work as a town and just in general, like, we can't throw shade on these things, pension costs. I think it's very, very convenient to like say, well, we got rising pension costs, we got all this stuff. Yeah, it's a reality, but there's people behind that, right? There are people who are carrying out services, there are people doing the job on a day-to-day basis. We live in a civilized society. We try to do the best we can for the taxpayers, but there is a cost to that, right? And so I think as a town, if we can demonstrate what we're delivering, how we're spending that money, what people are getting for it, then that's always should be our mission, right? If we're spending something, we should show a deliverable for it. And sometimes with town government, it's not like building a school, a building, a park. You can say, hey, my tax, I can see that, right? You can see that, but when you've got people that you've got to fund, we need people to run the town. If we don't have that, then we don't have a town, right? And that's not a fun place to be. But these are this one, we'll call that a budget buster. It's a service, right? Some other towns do it differently, but the town of Acushnet has been really committed. The one thing that taxpayers can see is they can see that their trash and recyclables are getting picked up weekly, recyclables every other week, I guess, right? And so that's something that the residents of Acushnet have said, we want to see our tax dollars go to that. That's an important service that we carry out, but it's a challenge. The contract's going to be up. We're going to go out to bid on that and do what we can to drive down. But that's what that costs on a yearly basis. And water, again, not everybody's on water, but that's an increased cost that people are faced with. And unfortunately, we're at the behest of the city of New Bedford. We have a lot of people who are on well, who are on their own private septic, so they don't see that. But there are a number of residents who have that, have that yearly obligation. Utilities, technologies, legal fees, and we're trying to drive those down. Hopefully, we can drive those down. Jamie, sorry, you jumped in there.
That's fine. So, things you don't want to use. You don't want to use the free cash for the operating budget. It's, one time, you don't know what it's going to be. It's not ideal for the operating. Prioritizing, you get the articles, any remaining funds we try to, use if, depending, rescind the article and reappropriate the funds for other items. You get CPC funds, which is great, so you can, allocate them for certain items that are needed in town. You get stabilization funds, long-term bonds and bands, and the enterprise retained earnings. So the concerns, the income, the economy is down, interest, high interest rate impacts the construction, so there's, lower new growth, lower building. The solar arrays, the connective problems. We're waiting for the substations to be completed so we can get some of these solar stations online. The decrease in student population, it's lower than previous years, so the Chapter 70 fund is lower. Again, one-time fixes, free cash is not a fix. You don't want one-time money. New sources of revenue, the cannabis, expand economic development, no impact, no immediate impact, 3 to 5 year adoptions.
So just, again, those are like concepts. People have talked about it. Do we have cannabis? Do we not have cannabis? There's things that as a town we've got to consider. I don't know if it's on the horizon or not, but we got to start thinking about are there new sources of revenue we can try and bring in. So just to kind of sum all this stuff up, and I'll turn it over to, thank you, Jamie. So, how do we plan to get there? I think we talked about always looking for a better way to build the mousetrap. Can we be more efficient? Can we use technology? Can we be creative? We look at how we're sharing a town planner, right? I think you're going to see a lot of towns They're going to have dedicated public servants who are going to be retiring, and that's going to create gaps and openings. And you know, I think you'll see more discussion with other municipalities and can we share services. You got to look at that. Again, a small thing, low key, but legal RFPs. If there are other things when it comes to procurement that we can look at. But as I mentioned before, we've got a backbone in this town. It's our finance committee. If you look collectively, not to make anybody feel old, there's over 100 years of combined municipal experience, right? I mean, I'm not talking about people's age. I'm talking about the time that they've spent. I mean, Sue, you've been on the finance committee, what, 20 years? Going close to 16. I know Doc Boucher, close to 20. I mean, we've got a number of folks who have been at this for an awful long time, which I think is really helpful. Sometimes, you know, being at it a long time isn't great. You get a little stale and a little rusty. But I think when it comes to finances, institutional knowledge and institutional memory is really important, especially as you're integrating newer people, right? You've got newer members on the finance committee who can challenge the process. But I think it's really important to have that institutional knowledge, and we're really lucky to have that. A transparent budget process is critical, to know where every single penny is, and that's not just when you're coming in to ask for the money during the budget process. That's a 365-day proposition. It's knowing when the money's being spent. Are there any trend lines? Are things being spent at the end of the year, in the middle of the year? Being able to forecast, having that level of transparency is really important, not only when you're asking for the money, but once you get the money and how you spend it when you have it. We talked about, you know, establishing a capital expense planning process. That's nothing new. I know Kevin's talked about that, Bob's talked about that over the years, but really just putting it out there to ensure that we do that. Again, you can't use one-time money for operational costs. And lastly, always think creatively to solve problems. If there's a way to do it better, I know we've got sometimes challenges with the union and so on and so forth, but if we can maintain level of communication with the department heads and the employees to understand the mission. We're here to serve the residents. It's not my money. I mean, I guess technically it's our money because we're all taxpayers, but it's really more than the people in this room. And we have to guard it as if it is our own money, and spend it appropriately and treat it accordingly. And that's to be creative, right? I don't think any of us run our households the way we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We got to think creatively with this stuff. So I think we can do it. You know, I'm excited about the team that's in place. We've had some challenges, but I'm confident that the people that are here in this room will continue to deliver the services and provide a great product for those 99.7% people who are showing up quarterly to fund this town. So with that said, I don't know, gentlemen, if you have any, my colleagues on the board, again, I always go back to like, when the you-know-what hits the fan, it's that people are calling Bob, they're calling Kevin. So gentlemen, thoughts?
Yeah, I would just caution with, Mr. Kelly did his best looking at what numbers we have, revenue numbers, possibly to change the numbers that are used there as far as a deficit. As you can see, we're looking at $450,000 to $500,000 worth of deficit now, and that doesn't include any increase from Old Colony, any increase yet from our local schools, and any of the other operational budgets that we have that would require an increase. So again, it's same discussion that we've had years over years and decades over decades. It's getting more difficult, right? And I don't know, I look at $800,000, $900,000 in revenue and I say, I don't really know if we have a revenue problem or we have a spending problem, right? And I think that's really what we need to look at and have that discussion is maybe we just need to stop spending so much instead of, you know, asking for more revenue. Because the reality of it is there's no magic wand that's gonna bring in any magic number that anybody's gonna be satisfied with. I could bring in $500,000 worth of revenue, and 1 year it's going to be gone, And the next year, everybody's gonna come back and say, I need another $500,000, I need another $1 million. It's just not reality anymore. And the costs are pretty exorbitant. You've seen healthcare, pensions, pension costs are going up. And I don't think the way the pension system's been changed for, they're trying to be fully funded with a target date of 2035. I asked why one generation's paying for it. The pay-as-you-go was working out pretty well. We say stay up to date with what we owe on the pay-as-you-go, and we were doing pretty well. I guess everybody, elected officials and everybody who's getting a pension just wants their guarantee that they're gonna have that pension in the end. And I say good luck, because I don't see how that system's sustainable at the rate that it's at, right? Healthcare costs through the roof. It's burdening. It doesn't only burden us on our financial side, it's also burdening our town employees, right? So there's 60-40 split. So we're seeing the bigger cost of health insurance, the town is, to fund that, but you also have that impact on the employee. And some of the employees just can't afford that increase, and some of those increases are pretty exorbitant to an employee, right? And they just can't afford it. So it's something that we all need to, I think government needs to do a better job. I think Obamacare back in the day really hurt healthcare and the cost of healthcare. I would hope the federal government would look at that and try their best to work, party lines. Don't give a damn if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Do something and fix the problem. We know there's a problem there. Fix the damn problem on behalf of the people of America. Don't keep fighting back and forth, because that's getting us nowhere. It's gotten us nowhere since Obamacare was put in and all the subsidies. So I would urge, our elected officials, not only in the state, but in the federal government, to start working together instead of fighting all the time and getting nothing done. I think it's really that time that people come together and really start working on the problems, because America has an affordability crisis. It's not just an Acushnet affordability crisis, it's America's affordability crisis. And I think it's a damn shame that, we gotta talk Democrat and Republican all the time, or independents and all that stuff. That should be long gone in politics, man. We're all human beings, we all need to work together for the common good of all of us people in the United States of America. So with that, we do our best at our local level that we've been doing. I commend everybody that's on the team. I think we need to do, I know that we've done a good job trying to work together. I think we could always strive to do a better job of working together. I always tell people, whether on appointed committees or elected committees, aren't we all here for one common goal, for the betterment of this community? That's really what we're all here to do. So we should be working towards that common goal to give people what they deserve when they pay their tax bill, right? I'm surely not happy with paying a tax bill. I'm surely not happy about throwing an extra $1,000 on my tax bill, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And if the cause is needed, that's what we shall do. But I mean, the answer's not just keep taxing people to the max. It's really not the answer. We need to start figuring out solutions to these bigger problems, because we can't keep up with the pace of the problem. And I hate to say it, but it's gonna hurt a lot of people if we continue down the same damn path that we've been on. So I urge everybody, when you go vote for, your elected officials, whether it's state and federal and everything else, just consider that when you're doing it. Don't look at a letter on the side of their name. Do what you believe that person's gonna do the best job in representing you as an individual, and not worry about a D or an R or an I. I think that's a bigger problem in America.
Agree. Bob? I think you both, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I think you both hit the nail on the head quite a bit, so I'm not going to elaborate too much more, but I'd like to mirror what Selectman Gasper just said about a revenue versus expense problem. So in this particular process, I've been actively trying to work on a host community agreement for cannabis. And if you notice from the slide, it says benefits in 3 to 5 years. So even if we come up with something, we rezone, we do all this, by the time we get to that 3 to 5 year mark, the needs for those revenues are going to be more than what we take in anyway. So I think it's really important to reiterate that we could always use more revenue, but without cutting expenses and trying to find cheaper ways to do things without losing services is really important. So being creative, little things like allowing collections online for the DPW, you know, that increased revenue coming into the town, just because people didn't want to go to town hall, pay for something, to drop it off at the town barn. You know, little things like that. We're striving to make it easier for the residents, but also maintain budget processes. And I commend everybody in this room for being a part of this team. It's tough. And I also would like to thank both members of this board that have worked. I think we've worked pretty well together, whether we've wanted to bounce each other off the wall every once in a while. I'm still proud to sit next to both of you, so I appreciate that. And Mr. Kelly over there, he's not sleeping.
All right, well, look, it's the holiday season. Yeah, please.
I just want to, hope you can hear me. I just want to thank all the department heads for all their hard work and working with me with the little changes that I try to tweak in, you know, with invoices and warrants and, you know, taking over your utility bills and spreadsheets and everything else. I just want to say thank you for all your cooperation and getting things to us timely so we get the bills paid and get everything out the door. So I just want to say thank you.
It's the holiday season, and so if you guys want to join us, the board, we've got a little spread at CAM's, and if anybody who's here would like to join us to have some food and shoot the BS, we'd love to have you, and we'll be heading over there shortly and after this. So with that said, gentlemen, there's no
Selectmen's announcements?
Yeah, Selectmen's announcements, come on.
So I just want to wish everyone, all our employees, first and foremost, a Merry Christmas, a happy, healthy New Year, and to everybody at home, a Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy New Year. I think the most important part of that sentence is a healthy New Year, right? You can't buy your health. So do your best to take care of yourself, all your loved ones, your family members. Cherish it while you have it, because someday you won't have it. And I speak from experience, so it's tough sometimes, but just love the family and cherish the time that you have with your family members when you do have them. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Same thing, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, great, thank you.